The detention facility on Krell 9 was a monument to cruelty. Built into the hollowed core of a dead moon, it housed the galaxy's most dangerous specimens, beings too valuable to kill, too dangerous to free. In Cell Block Omega, behind walls of reinforced durasteel and psionic dampeners, Dravacar had been imprisoned for 3 centuries. The dragon was a relic from Earth's forgotten age, when humanity still believed in myths. 700 years ago, when mankind first reached for the stars, they'd found him sleeping in the Carpathian Mountains. They'd captured him with electromagnetic nets and cryogenic weapons, studied him, feared him, and ultimately imprisoned him when his rage proved too catastrophic to contain. Now he lay coiled in perpetual twilight, his scales dulled to the color of ash, his fire reduced to embers in his chest. The dampeners kept him weak, barely conscious. He existed in a state between sleep and death, dreaming of skies he would never fly again, until Arya Kane arrived. She was 12 years old, small even for her age, with dark hair matted against her pale face. The Krell guards threw her into the observation cell adjacent to Dravacar's chamber. A cruel joke, placing a child next to the monster. They didn't know that monsters recognize innocence better than most. Through the transparent barrier, Dravacar's ancient eyes opened. The girl was crying, but not from fear of him. She clutched something in her hands, a small data chip, the kind that held family memories. "Hello," she whispered, pressing her hand against the barrier. "Are you real?" Dragons don't speak often, but something in her voice stirred memories of villages he'd once protected, of children who'd left offerings of bread and flowers at the mouth of his cave. "I am," his voice rumbled, unused for decades. "What are you, child?" "Arya, my name is Arya Kane," she smiled weakly. "They took me because my parents helped refugees. The Krell don't like that." Over the next 3 days she talked to him. She told him about Earth, how it had changed, how humanity had spread across 100 worlds, how they'd lost their way in the vastness of space. She spoke of her parents' arrest, their execution, how she'd been the only one left. "They say I have information," she said on the 3rd day. "But I don't, I was just a kid. I didn't know anything about their network." Dravacar listened, and for the first time in 3 centuries he felt something besides rage. He felt sorrow. "You remind me of someone," he said softly. "A girl from a village called Brashov. She used to bring me honey cakes." "That was very long ago," Arya smiled. "I wish I had honey cakes for you." That night the interrogators came. Dravacar heard every scream. The dampeners kept him immobile, but they couldn't block his senses. He heard the plasma whips crack against her flesh. He heard the neural stimulators activate, sending agony through her nervous system. He heard her beg, not for mercy, but for them to believe that she didn't know anything. She screamed for her parents. She screamed for someone to help her. Nobody came. 36 minutes after they dragged her broken body back to her cell, Arya Kane died. She died alone on the cold floor, her hand still reaching toward the barrier that separated her from the dragon. The last thing she said was, "I'm sorry I couldn't set you free." For 36 minutes after her death, Dravacar was silent. The guards didn't notice the temperature rising. They didn't see the cracks forming in his scales as something ancient stirred beneath. They didn't recognize that the dampeners, designed to suppress a creature of instinct and rage, had never been calibrated for what happens when a dragon feels grief. When Dravacar opened his eyes again, they burned with a light that hadn't existed in the universe for 1,000 years. His roar shattered the psionic dampeners. The sound wasn't just noise, it was a frequency that resonated with the fundamental forces of reality. The durasteel walls screamed as molecular bonds dissolved. The energy shields flickered and died. The entire detention facility shuddered as if the moon itself had awakened. Dravacar rose, and with each movement, his body transformed. The ash-gray scales turned to molten gold. His wings, atrophied from centuries of confinement, unfurled and caught fire, not with ordinary flame, but with plasma that burned at the temperature of a star's core. This was not the creature they'd captured all those years ago. This was something older, something humans had forgotten in their myths. This was a worm of the First Age, and he was fury made flesh. The Krell guards died first. Dravacar moved through Cell Block Omega like a storm of vengeance, his claws tearing through armor and bone with equal ease. Fire poured from his jaws, not to kill quickly but to make them suffer as Arya had suffered. The facility's automated defenses activated. Plasma cannons, particle beams, kinetic missiles, all of it struck Dravakar and was absorbed by his scales, feeding the inferno within him. He tore through 17 security bulkheads in as many seconds. He found the interrogation chamber and incinerated everyone inside, letting their ashes scatter in the vacuum as he breached the hull. But Dravakar wasn't finished. He reached into the facility's computer core, his ancient mind interfacing with technology that shouldn't have been compatible. He accessed the prisoner database, and he opened every cell. The galaxy's most dangerous beings poured out of Krell 9 like a tide of chaos. But before they scattered, each one passed through the observation deck where Dravakar stood guard over a small, broken body. "Remember her name," he commanded, his voice carrying a compulsion that would echo in their minds forever. Arya Kane, 12 years old, died because the galaxy forgot that some things are sacred. One by one, hardened criminals, alien warlords, and genetic nightmares bowed their heads as they passed. When the Galactic Council's response fleet arrived 4 hours later, they found Krell 9 torn open like a paper box. Of the 3,000 Krell personnel stationed there, none survived. The freed prisoners had vanished into the void. In the observation cell, they found Dravakar, curled around Arya's body with the tenderness of a parent protecting a sleeping child. His eyes were closed, but his scales still glowed with residual heat that sensors read as equivalent to a small sun. The fleet commander, AO, veteran of 20 conflicts, stared at the scene and understood that they were looking at something that should have remained a legend. "Get the diplomats," he whispered, "and someone find out everything about this child. If we don't make this right, he'll burn every world we have." Dravakar's eyes opened, fixing on the commander with the weight of geological time. "She wanted to be free," the dragon said softly. "She wanted to see her home again. I will take her there, and if anyone tries to stop me, they will learn why humans once worshipped beings like me." No one stopped him. The ancient dragon spread his wings, cradling Arya Kane's body, and flew toward Earth, toward a reckoning that humanity had forgotten was possible. Some things, once buried, should never be disturbed, but some things should never be forgotten either.